It is Locked On Jazz for the 15th of September. Danny Ainge sits down with Boler. Change had to happen. He's enthusiastic about the season. We'll hear out of Ainge himself what he has to say. Plus, Danny Colin Sexton, Agbaji, and Markkanen. Donovan Mitchell is introduced in Cleveland, has one interesting comment about the Jazz. And Colin Sexton and Agbaji talk about Will Hardy. It's a dynamite show, all coming your direction today on Locked On Jazz. Pow.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thanks so very much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen every single day. Please give us a thumbs up or 5 stars in the comment section on the podcast app you listen to, or give me a little hashtag your team every day over in the comment section on YouTube. Glad to have you involved. Our question of the day: are you as enthusiastic as Danny Ainge is about the new Utah Jazz? That poll question is up on our YouTube. Hear what you have to say. Ainge fired up. You can tell in the Boler conversation. He chatted with Craig Bolerjack. It's available on YouTube at Utah Jazz. So is Justin Zanuck with JP Chunga. We'll try to get to that later in the week. There's a lot of content coming out this week. Plus, Donovan Mitchell was introduced in Cleveland. We'll get to that as well. So what I wanted to do today, and this is kind of a stretch for me technically, so hopefully I'll pull this off. I wanted to take some snippets from Boler's really, really good conversation with Danny Ainge on about the changes and what's taken place, and take them and talk about them with you a little bit, and then get your comments in the comment section on YouTube, or hit me up on Twitter at dlock09 to let me know your thoughts on what you heard and the comments he's made. So that's the plan for the day. It's going to take me to be good technically, which sometimes, could be a little harder than others, and you'll see me kind of looking off to the side as I try to cue things up. I've gone through a ton of audio in the last day to be able to get that done. I want to just give a shout out before I go any further. I spent yesterday down at the Friendship Cup in St. George, the Levitt Charity Cup. Mark's done an amazing job with that. There was a group from Scotland. I played with a guy who was a pro at Creel, which is one of the courses out there. I played with 2 guys who were from St. Andrews and Carnoustie. So if you're golfers, those ring a bell. Really cool. The Scottish people were just amazing. The Levitt family doing just remarkable work, and huge fundraiser for prostate cancer and other health issues going on there. So really a cool event. Ron Boone had me down, and just a tip of the hat. It's just another one of those things where the golf world in Utah is doing amazing things. So I want to give a shout out to that. Met some truly wonderful people, made some lifelong friends, and laughed a lot, had a good time, thought a lot, and might have even hit a golf ball too, or might have hit a birdie putt on 9 to win a match against Richie Incognito, the former NFL player. So I hit the putt to win and sprinted off the green because he's really big, and I didn't want him out. No, super nice guy. Had a really good time with him. All right, let's get to it. Let's get over to Danny Ainge, and we'll start here with Ainge with Boler. And the first part of what they were talking about, just kind of Ainge's perspective as he came in mid-season, and how change seemed necessary, inevitable, and obvious.
Like mid-season last year, and so it wasn't really. This isn't really my plan. This is me collaborating with players, coaches, former coaches, right. Ownership. Just getting a feel that we needed to make changes, that this isn't something that I discerned. I feel like watching the team play, I will say that I didn't really feel like there was a belief. And then just talking to people, it didn't seem like there was a real belief in this group of guys going forward. And I'm saying as a championship caliber team, I mean, guys liked each other, guys played hard, they played for each other, but just everybody in this organization believes that we needed to make changes.
What's interesting about that comment is not necessarily what Ainge said, and he said something similar, a few days before, so it wasn't earth-shattering to hear that in any way, shape, or form. But what I do think was interesting to what Danny just said there is a question I'll ask you, and I've asked it in the comment section on YouTube. Do you believe, had the Jazz rolled a similar team back? I think it's clear, we've gone through this a lot of times, that I think they ran around the league to try to see what they could do to alter the shape of the roster and make it so that the team would be different. And they didn't have any picks and they didn't have any money. They were fourth highest payroll in the league. So that was really impossible. And so I'll ask you the question that I think is interesting, because as I've walked around town and interacted with people, saw good friend Mark the other day at the Levitt Cup and a lot of other people, what are we doing? What are we doing? And then it's like this. And then I'll ask him now that question the other day. It was like, well, okay, if we had rolled the same thing back, would have you believed it could have done something dramatically different? And I think that's really what this comes down to. There's no question the effort was made to try to see what major pieces could do, but we did it on the show. We're not that far off. And so you can go run through all of the options as we did. We came up with Dame Lillard, which couldn't happen. Kristaps Porzingis, Tobias Harris. Probably would have cost us bogey on all of them. Not sure it moved the meter. I'm sure they didn't think it moved the meter a great deal. So it's an interesting concept where, Danny's saying, the belief issue. Let me stop with the idea of whether the players believe. That got a lot of pub and a lot of discussion. Let me ask you, what have you believed? Put questions up in the comment section, so I'll go back and see what you had to say, or maybe even be with you on this. What have you believed? Because I don't, if you're not really believing the play, it's pretty clear. So I think the more we digest where we are as a franchise, the change that had to be made is clear. And then the next question is where you go. The thing that's so interesting right now to me is the roster as it sits right now is pretty good, right? If we opened the season with a lineup of Colin Sexton and Mike Conley in a 2-guard set with Bojan Bogdanovic as our 3, Lauri Markkanen as our 4, or Jared Vanderbilt is, I don't think Markkanen's great center. I actually think unless he's center, he plays his better. But, whichever you want, we've got a gap in the middle. You're either starting Vanderbilt. I would, start Vanderbilt, Bogey, Markkanen. Your bench is Malik Beasley, Jordan Clarkson, Kessler, Udoka at center. It's got some gaps. It doesn't have 240 minutes of play, but it's got. Taylor Horton Tucker can play. Agbaji might be able to play. It gets. You can start playing that roster and actually win 40 some odd games. You probably could be better in Portland if you wanted to be, which is, I think it's, I don't think our organization needs that. We talked about that before, but there is some level, that is what's interesting here. Ainge, I think the other one it's interesting here is, Bowler asks Danny, what should fans expect? And I think this is the essence of where Danny's sitting right now. And I think it's where a lot of fans are getting to as well.
So I think the fans can expect fun and excitement, energy. I feel it in the gym already this summer. There's so much enthusiasm. We have youth. We have 2 young lottery picks, or first-round picks, 1 lottery pick. We have a kid in Markkanen who's had a fantastic summer this summer and just had 43 points and a big win. Taylor Horton Tucker, dynamic 21-year-old player. I think there's a lot to be excited about. I'm excited about this team, and I don't anticipate that our team is going to win as many games as we've won, but I believe that it's going to be more entertaining and more exciting basketball.
This is interesting because I think there are a bunch of Jazz fans that have gotten to the same kind of point on this, where they're originally when these trades were made, it was why would I come to the stadium? How would I feel it? Why would I think people are over that right now. If there's young energy, commitment to playing hard, I'm getting the vibe from people, and I think that, yeah, I can dig in. We're getting close to the season. I can dig in this. I can find out let's find out what Colin Sexton is. Is Lauri Markkanen about to break out? Who's Agbaji? Who's Kessler? Like, what are the things can Taylor Horton-Tucker develop? And, we might still have Mike Jordan or Boyan around in some veteran roles there to help them do it. So I think it's a really interesting, I think it's been, I'm doing this not as necessarily, I don't think this show is necessarily a fan analysis of the moves. We've done that a million times. But I think Danny's touching on kind of where the fan base is getting to be and where people and how people are feeling about this. I do think there's a bubbling enthusiasm and there's a grasp of reality of what we came from and where and what was in front of us as an organization. I mean, it's pretty interesting if you even look at the West. Like, had we rolled it back, where do you put us? Right? Like, I guess Minnesota wouldn't be as good because they wouldn't have Rudy. But it's pretty amazing that we're going to see predictions this year where Minnesota with Rudy's in the playing game. They're wrong. Minnesota could very well be a home court team. And I think I think Minnesota wins the Midwest, but I think Denver could be right there too. The Northwest, not the Midwest. But I think that, so I think they're wrong. I think Houston, Minnesota, but that means that Dallas is a play-in team. Like at that point. Like if Minnesota's not, Dallas probably is. And if Dallas isn't, then Denver is if Minnesota's not. It's pretty crazy of where it all sits. It is Locked On Jazz today. We'll hear more from Ainge. I got Ainge a little bit more on kind of a really, really honest comment about how he views where our franchise was. And you can tell that they've upped the ante of what they're trying to get done than what we've done in a long time. And then we'll hear about what Danny thinks on the new players. As well. Today's show brought to you by my friends over at Murdoch Hyundai, located at 4646 South State Street, also located in Logan and in Linden. So if you're in any of those three locations and you're looking for a car right now, feel free to hit me up at dlock09@gmail.com. We'll get you the VIP experience. Why Hyundai? To me, that's actually pretty simple. The reason for why Hyundai is because if you do the research, as I did a while ago, you'll find out that for the dollar, you get more bells, more whistles, more safety, more features, more fabulousness. And that's why we've bought two Santa Fe's. We bought them both for our kids when they started driving, because I don't know about you, but my kids weren't, what's the word I'm looking for? They weren't good. So we wanted every safety feature we could imagine, everything we could get for them. And then in addition to that, they now have the new Ioniq, which we just picked up, which is absolutely fabulous. There is a waiting list on that, as there are in a bunch of cars right now. But as the Murdochs have been throughout this period of time, they're not going to charge you more than MSRP. They're not going to gouge you. As Blake says, we're not going to take advantage of a circumstance and change the way it feels to go around town, go to church, go to the grocery store, be around. The Murdochs are a part of our community. So it's all available for you at Murdoch Hyundai, located at 4646 South State Street, also in Logan and in Linden. Please feel free to email me first at dlock09@gmail.com. I want to make sure that we get you the VIP experience. Today's show is also brought to you by Summit Cap. That's an interesting group. It's a local investment group made of successful business operators. Matt and Jeff and David, they actually invested as well in Locked On and were great to deal with. The biggest thing I can tell you that's different between them and maybe some VC groups, there's no artificial timeline. They didn't come in and have nothing and act like they knew our business. They came in and listened and asked great questions. And that's what was most enjoyable for me. What they're looking for is someone who works in a company right now, and maybe the ownership group is on their last stages. They're not willing to make the advancements right now. They're looking for their exit. But you, as someone in the company, or someone who's in the company who has all the expertise and can vault it to brand new heights. They want to come in, help you out, give you the equity that you need, give you the capital that you need to have the equity in the company, and work with you to take that company to new heights. The owners win because they sell out, and you win because you're got the backing of Summit Cap. So that's what Summit Cap's looking for. If you know someone who fits that, contact Matt at 801-796-2033. That's 801-796-2033. Email LockedOnJazz@SummitCapUtah.com. Click on SummitCapUtah.com. That's SummitCapUtah.com. Matt's number again, 801-796-2033. And as always, if that was too fast, you can hit me up on as well. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day, your team every day. It is the Locked On Podcast Network. For your second listen, make Locked On NBA Big Board a habit. Those guys are doing a great job getting ready for the college basketball season and the NBA draft. They do super work for you as well. If you're an NFL fan, Peacock and Williamson, absolutely terrific. All right, let's get to more Ainge. This was really probably the most newsworthy comment that he made in the conversation with Bowler. Again, this is available on YouTube on the Utah Jazz YouTube account, which if you have not followed and subscribed to is really good. This is the most, first he talks about kind of the confidence in what they're doing, which is nice to see. And then the next one, he takes this comment that's 100% truthful, 100% accurate. And I still think every Jazz fan probably saw it, was like, oh. And then you pause and you're like, wow, what this means is that they are taking the standard of excellence and even vaulting it further of what they're shooting for. And so, I'm really interested to hear what you think about his comment that Danny makes here about halfway through about the last 15 years with the Jazz.
Good organization here, well-established organization, and some smart people, I think, running the top of this organization. And I just think that everybody feels like change needed to happen. And so I think that I'm enthusiastic about that. I think it's really fun. And most people I run into on the street feel like they're excited for the upcoming year. And I mean, the reality is we've had 16 years of, it's better than mediocrity for sure at times in the last 16 years, but at the same time, it really hasn't been championship caliber basketball. And 16 years without getting past the second round of the playoffs, right, I think is not what any of us want. And so the change is just, okay, here we are with veteran team, had been all in on this veteran team. I think Dennis Lindsey has done a fantastic job in this organization, as did Quinn Snyder. And but I just think we're starting over.
Well, everything he just said is 100% accurate. And I maybe I'm the only one. 16 years of above me. Gosh, it feels like that's been I've been a large part of all those. But he's right. He's right. We haven't gotten out of the second round in 16 years. Now, I've always said your goal is to be in the Final Four of your conference, to build a roster that can regularly be in the Final Four in the conference. And then it's such a crapshoot. The fact is we weren't doing that as much as we wanted to do either, but that's always what I've said. Now, the other goal would be, let's get to the Final Four overall, and it's less of a crapshoot, right? If you're in that position and you're in the Final Four overall, then you're right there. But I've always said your goal should be in the Final Four of your conference, because then who knows what happens? Ball bounces, Conley shot goes in. That wasn't in the Final Four, that was in the first round, but you understand what I'm saying. It just, Derek Fisher's shot does or doesn't go in. The margin gets so slim at that point. You at least are giving yourself a shot. But Ainge is saying, let's take it higher. Let's not be all right with 16 years of not making a conference finals. I mean, he just put a very high standard on what they're trying to execute here for himself, publicly, which is neat. Which is really neat to see on that. All right, let's hear I want your comments on that. Feel free to hit me up at dlock09@gmail.com. I'll be honest, I heard that the first time. I was like, whoa. And then I stopped and I thought about it. I was like, okay, 100% true. 100% true. And then I kind of walked myself back how many times do we have a shot? How many times were we really going to win it? And, some of it is that, I would say probably Darren at his peak in that stretch was the player who probably was the most dominating, or Donovan at his peak, one of the two. And then, but you've got to have one of those really, really special dudes. Boston got to the finals this year because Jason Tatum was one of the top 5 players in the league for a while. That's why you get in. Philadelphia is being discounted right now, but they have Joel Embiid. They got a shot to win the East next year because they have Joel Embiid. And if Harden's anywhere close, then they certainly have a shot, right? Because you have to have one of those guys. You just really do. And our two guys, as great as they are, and I love both of them, neither of them was all NBA last year. Neither of them had a great year last year, but the fact that Donovan and Rudy were not all NBA last year, pretty telling. I actually could make an argument. This is kind of maybe not true, maybe being a little bit of an extremist, but there was a moment last year where I held a dinner conversation, and we hold you'll hold dinner conversations you don't think are entirely accurate because you've had dinner with some of these people are maybe on a lunch conversation, for the 60th time of the year, and you're trying to incite some sort of good conversation. Where I actually wondered if Donovan was ever going to make the All-Star team again in the Western Conference. This was last year. And my thought was Clay's coming back, Kawhi's coming back, Paul George is coming back, Anthony Edwards is emerging, John Morant's a perennial now. Like it starts to get hard. Like making the All-Star game's really, really hard. And so, I think it was right after All-Star game where it felt like Donovan was going to make it, but it was a little bit on edge, and then he doesn't make All-NBA. Like, is Donovan going to be All-NBA again? I mean, that's even harder, right? That's top 15 players in the NBA. But if you don't have an All-NBA player, you're not really competing for a championship. Right? I think we all, as much as I love Rudy, Rudy's not carrying you a championship by himself. I've said this all the time. I think he's one of the 5 most impactful players in the league. Impactful, but does that mean you actually can carry your team to a championship? Probably not. So it's interesting. All right, some interesting comments from Danny on the new players as we try to look forward a little bit. We're not doing a great job of that all the time on this show these days, is trying to look forward to where, what's coming and start to dig in, but we will soon enough because the season is right on weeks away from content day and exciting stuff of that nature. So here is Ainge on Colin Sexton.
An amazing work ethic. I remember the first time I heard about Colin when I was in Boston was when he, almost won a game with a 3-on-5 after a few of his players had been ejected. It was a miraculous game by Colin. But Colin is just a tough kid. But that kind of epitomizes who he is, that 3-on-5. Like, you don't give up. Here's the crazy adversity in the middle of a game, and he found a way to thrive in the middle of that. But he's coming off a knee injury last year, but he's 23 years old. He's averaging 20 points a game in his early career, but just an energetic, enthusiastic, great teammate, great work ethic kid that we're really excited to have.
So that was on Sexton. Here's what he had to say about Lauri Markkanen, who is having, the much talked about Euro League with Finland before it came to an end. Here's what he had to say.
Had a breakout summer, and some of it is playing with his Finnish national team. That's different than playing with NBA stars. He's clearly the best player on that team, but he's beating teams of better players or that have had better NBA careers than him. And but he's really coming into his own. We're seeing things in him, grabbing rebounds and going coast to coast with the dribble, and those are things you haven't really seen out of Lauri yet. And so we're excited about his future.
7-footer, can shoot the 3. Pretty impressive, base to start with if he starts to add other aspects to his game, and maybe this is the opportunity to do it. And here's what Danny said about Agbaji.
Most of our scouts as well. He was a lottery pick by Cleveland, but he was a big part of this trade. He has a big upside. He's, top college player in first-team All-American last year, a national champion, 6'6", wing players. We're all looking for wing players and versatile players, but he really continued to improve. He's had great college coaching with Coach Self at Kansas, and he's gotten better every year. And he's a shooter, shot over 40% from the three-point line, and he's a 6'6" athlete that is a pretty complete player, and we're excited about him.
So that's Danny Ainge with Craig Bolerjack. If you want that entire conversation, there's much more to it than what I shared with you today. It is available for you on YouTube under the Utah Jazz account. They're doing some great content. The Jazz just really have upped the amount of content they're providing for you. It's really terrific. All right, we'll try to hear from Colin Sexton and Agbaji about Will Hardy. Hear a little bit from Donovan Mitchell, if we have time, as well, from a comment he made. Just quick one from Brian Windhorst. We're just packing the show with content today. There's just so much out there right now. It's kind of exciting and fun to have all this in the middle of September. Today's show is brought to you by Built Bar. All the exciting stuff going on at Built. The granola berry bars are out now, the brand new ones. White chocolate blueberry, white chocolate berry, both available for you on the granola bar front, along with the coconut chocolate and the chocolate peanut butter granola bars available for you. The puffs are still there. The cookie dough chunk puff still kicking it. 160 calories. 15 grams of protein and 8 grams of sugar, plus all the regular great bar. Oh, the brownie batter is 140 calories, 17 grams of collagen-infused puff. the collagen protein, easier to digest, quicker to your muscles for you. 7 grams of sugar and all the regular bars as well. The promo code LOCKEDON15, LOCKEDON15 gets you 15% off on all of your orders. So make sure you jump on and grab that right now. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at betonline.net, wherever you can get your latest news, sports, information, podcasts, and the rest. All of the different lines that are going on right now at BetOnline. The NFL season is underway. Chargers and Chiefs tonight should be a good one. The Chiefs are a 4-point favorite after Patrick Mahomes' awesome outing. Always love to see the line on what your survivor pool should be. There's a double-digit line this week. It's the Rams at 10.5 over the Falcons. There's also the Broncos at 10 over the Texans, as long as they don't need to call a timeout. 2 Monday night games. Is that right this week? We had a bunch of weird. We have a Monday night and a Tuesday night game this week. It's kind of weird. Didn't know that. Didn't know that happened. That's weird. I'm out of touch. Packers and Bears are 10-point line, as are Buffalo and Tennessee. So a bunch of different things at BetOnline on your lines. The basketball NBA futures and team wins is up for you as well. All 30 teams are up right now, so they aren't pulling anyone else. The Utah Jazz over/under sitting right now at 26.5. The Spurs are at 24.5. The Magic are at 26. The Thunder at 23.5 on the bottom end. The Lakers, just out of interest, are at 45.5. And those Knicks, who didn't need to make the deal for Donovan, are at 39.5. Oh, dagger. That's all at betonline.net. Thanks so much for tuning in to Locked On Jazz today. We have for you 2 NFL special shows. The NFL prediction show, we take the 5 games will be on national television. So the 3 Fox CBS games, the NBC Sunday night and Monday night. We run through them with our crossovers of our hosts. We get betting experts on them as well. It's all available for you in Locked On NFL on YouTube. It's kind of a great show. So make sure you grab that. Plus, each of our local experts will give you a breakdown of all the most important keys to all the games for the NFL weekend with game to game. And a recap on Sundays as well. So Locked On NFL on YouTube's got a bunch of great stuff. All right, here's what Donovan said to Brian Windhorst of ESPN yesterday. Thought this was the only interesting comment. This was his reaction to the Royce O'Neal trade. But what's interesting is Donovan, I can't tell from this comment of whether Donovan's saying he went to the front office and said, don't trade me and the big guy. We want another run at it. Or whether it was just talking to Royce. I can't tell, but it's a pretty interesting comment.
You know, and obviously you had your monumental moment.
I was shocked as well, I would say.
Especially to trade Royce and then to just get back a draft pick when, you know, after the season had ended, we had spoke, you know, we talked about like not trading Rudy or, you know, I said like let's try and do this, you know, as a group and, you know, make changes if need be, but not myself or Big Fella, you know, let's just run it back. And, you know, obviously they went the direction they went, and, you know, when Royce got traded, he called me. That was a tough one. Because I didn't know what was happening, you know, and then that happened, and you lose your best friend on the team. Not even just a best friend, but a best friend in life. But that was very interesting, and, you know, from that, I pretty much just set up, you know, the rest of the summer.
So it's an interesting comment by Don in the sense that I don't know what he meant there. I don't quite have whether he's saying that he went to the front office and said that, and if he did, I don't know what I would react to. I mean, Don is the great kid, and he was wonderful. He didn't have a great year last year. And like I don't know how I would react if I was the front office and Don was coming back to me and saying, hey, let's run this back after we kind of like dogged out we didn't have any juice all year. We were looking for the spark all year. We didn't play with a lot of belief, but let's run it back. Like, it's interesting. Like you sometimes wonder like, well, is the comfort zone so good for you that you want to run it back because it's so easy? Like it's just not hard. Or do you want to run it back because you just realize what opportunity you missed? That would be a really hard call for me to try to figure out if I was the front office on what he said. But I can't tell actually from the way he said that of whether or not he's actually just talking to Royce. So, you know, I guess I'll have to find out. But it's not, and it's interesting because I'm not sure that it, you know, there's a lot of different murmurs out there. I'm not sure the idea that Don came and said, let's run it back matches all of those. So it might've been just a conversation with Royce. It's not clear to me in that conversation, but Don's in Cleveland. He's going to be, you know, let's root for him, in every way, shape or form. And hopefully that works out for him. I think these are going to be fascinating mixes. I'll do a show coming up here on what I think about how these guys are all going to do in Minnesota and Cleveland and what I think these seasons will be. Let's move forward again, kind of looking ahead. Here's Colin Sexton and Agbaji on the, again at Utah Jazz on YouTube, and they were talking about Will Hardy, and this is the first time we've heard anyone kind of talk about what Will Hardy's coaching is like, so I wanted to let you have an opportunity to hear that.
yesterday we was able to catch up, and he's understanding that we're going to be young, but he also understands it's going to be fun, and I can't wait to just be coached by him just because his energy and how he talks to us and how he's so uplifted and how he has high spirits each and every day. It's early in the morning. He's, how you doing? How you doing? It's definitely cool, and that rubs off on everybody in the building as well.
Just kind of going off that energy, and that kind of motivates us as players, seeing a new coach come in, want to work so hard for him, and just get him established in the league too as a head coach.
So interesting to hear. We'd not heard much about Will. I got an opportunity. We had a broadcast retreat. Will Hardy was nice enough to come visit. We spent about 35, 40 minutes with him. Had a really fascinating conversation about, everything from how his career got started to his experiences with Pop to what his philosophies are. Guy wants to win. Guy wants to play hard. Guy's got standards. It was very clear. It was off the record, so I'm not going to, I'm going to hold to the confidentiality that has, and not, this was not an opportunity for me to come on the show and share a bunch to you about Will Hardy. I will tell you I was impressed that the fire was obvious. The clarity of his thinking was obvious. And that was really cool to see. And then, fun story. Seems like he'll be really, I think when you talk about, he's talked to us in the media about a lot about connecting with players and that type of connection. That was obvious to me. Like his clarity of thinking and his intelligence and his passion will come through, and which is all authentic, will come through to the players very clearly. And so it was clear to me that if that's his primary goal is to, those connections that he talked about and he wants to make with the players, he'll be able to do that at a very high level with these guys. And he'll do it quickly because of that. You can feel it. Like there's a willingness of himself to give, and therefore there's a willingness for him to listen and take. And when that happens, then people start to connect. You don't actually have a choice. If you have someone who has a willingness to listen and willingness to take, and they're also giving, if you're suddenly only one giving and they're not giving also, then you'll put your wall up like, I'm not so sure what's going on here. But if someone's willing to listen and take, that makes you feel great. And if they're also willing to give, and so they're entrusting you enough to know about them, that works. And I think I could feel that out of him. That's just a bigger philosophy thing on life. All right, just getting deep. All right, it is Locked On Jazz. Thanks so much. We'll do a Friday. I love Ask LOJ. You guys have been so great. So I'll throw out a few Ask LOJ tweets today. Answer our questions over in the chat room in the comment before you go today. Thanks so much for tuning in. And we'll have a Friday show for you tomorrow. We're getting close, people. We're getting close. It's exciting. Talk to you soon.